welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I was just thinking about how I just hit record before I even have a chance to think about what I'm going to say or anything. Like, I think if I were to think about it, like I used to spend all day long crafting what I was going to say. And I had to do that a year ago because I could not do it ad hoc like I am now. So there's a lot of progress that has happened over the past year that I think that we should celebrate, that I'm even able to talk off the cuff now a lot. I still have my script that I reference, but a lot of progress. And I was just thinking about how I start thinking about, okay, what is the topic today? And I'm starting to think about like, oh, I can talk about this and this is my experience. And before I have a chance to do that, I just start hitting record so that it's a surprise to me even what comes out of my mouth. So today, I'm talking about something that I was looking up this morning. I was thinking, I had a stroke in the left side of my brain. What side of your brain supports creativity? Because I have never been so like creative and artistic in my life. I've always been the kind of person who's constantly trying to come up with like part-time jobs. And I guess it's kind of like that entrepreneur type mindset. It runs in my family, but this is different. This is like all creative stuff. It's just like I'm making a rock bowl. I'm crocheting something that I can't give away because it's a present for somebody. I'm making baskets. I'm sewing quilts. I'm painting pill bottles. Like I can't be stopped. It's almost crazy. But I did start building an Etsy account. So I'm going to start selling my stuff. I decided I was really inspired by my trip to the mall yesterday where I got to go to the homemade store. So that's exciting. And so the topic today is about we'll see where it goes, but it started by me thinking, where does creativity live in your brain? And is it because I had the stroke on the left side of my brain? So I looked it up. It did say that meaning Chatty McChatterton, otherwise you lifetime listeners know that that is the nickname for Chat GPT. My husband told me I need to just start calling him Chatty. That we should be on a first name basis. I don't need to be calling him Chatty McChatterton anymore. So we're going to call him Chatty now. We're on a first name basis. So I asked Chatty where our creativity is in our brain. And he told me that it is primarily on the right side, but it really requires both sides of your brain. But it's majority on the right side. So I thought that was interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit about creativity, brain function, and the unexpected outcomes that arise from something life-altering, like a stroke. And I want to explore how creativity is associated with different parts of the brain, the right hemisphere mostly, and what happens when the left hemisphere is impacted by a stroke. So let's just see what happens. So starting with creativity, and it's traditionally understood in terms of brain function. So creativity is often linked to the right hemisphere of the brain, and that is the side of your brain that handles imagination, spatial abilities, visual and musical arts, and like holistic processes. And this is the part of the brain that helps us think outside the box and come up with new ideas and engage in artistic expression. So, this is exactly what I have been hyper focused on over the past, like, I mean, I think I really started getting almost obsessed with upcycling in the past 3 to 6 months. And that is what it is. It's thinking outside the box. I love to sit down and hold something and think, what else could this be? And I'll just sit with it. I'll just sit in my recliner and I'll just look at, like, hold something unusual in my hand. For example, the scoop from a collagen box, collagen container. That if any of you put collagen in your coffee, I put a scoop of collagen in my coffee every morning. So there are these big containers and they have a little scoop inside, and they're plastic, they're good plastic. So I decided, what can I do with these two things? So one of the things I did with the actual container was I made a hanging pot from it. I decoupaged the outside with fabric, and then I poked holes with my, I can't think of words, poked holes in order to hang it with rope. And it's pretty cute. So that'll be on my Etsy store. So keep an eye out for it. But I was thinking about, like, what do you do with the scoop? And I haven't figured it out yet. But that is that think outside of the box um, thing, and coming up with new ideas, repurposing. That apparently is the right side of the brain. So, but creativity is not just the right side of the brain. So, recent research has shown, and I'm not going to tell you where that research is done because I don't know, but we're going to say they say that creativity involves a interplay between both hemispheres of the brain. So while the right hemisphere might be more dominant in creative tasks, the left hemisphere is usually associated with logical thinking, language, analytical skills, but it also plays a role in the creative process. So not coincidentally, I had a stroke on the left side of my brain, and what has been affected long term is my language and my memory skills. So, coming up with words is way, way freaking more difficult than it used to be. Yeah. And so I figured, like, well, if I'm lacking in this area of language, that I used to be very articulate. I mean, I think I still am, but it I get out of breath because I'm working so hard to put it all together in my head. It's not easy like it used to be. And just just thinking from beginning to end is really difficult for me when I'm talking. So it's clear to me in my post-stroke symptoms that that is where my stroke was. And I'm thinking I should have been given something. This has been taken away from me. Something else should be getting better, right? I mean, that's what they say. They say if you lose your sight, your hearing gets better. If you lose your hearing, your sight gets better, whatever. I know that earlier in the year when my vision was really, really bad, my hearing, I relied so much on my hearing that I was hearing things that I wouldn't normally hear or listen for. So I think that's cool. And I was thinking, well, maybe since my language and memory has a deficit now, maybe my creativity is just soaring. So, but my creativity still relies on that left side of the brain. So creativity requires an integration of various cognitive functions from both sides of the brain. They work together to create creative thoughts and ideas and solutions. So when somebody has a stroke on the left side of the brain, it usually is associated with aphasia. That's what a lot of people have who have a stroke on the left side of their brain. What I have in language, that deficit is aphasia, but it's mild aphasia. And it's so mild that when I'm talking to somebody, you don't really even notice that I'm struggling. Um, I wonder, I haven't heard from any of you telling me that you've noticed my struggling, but I would be interested to know. It wouldn't hurt my feelings. It would almost feel like validation that, yeah, I can hear you hesitate. I can hear you when you're trying to find a word and you can't find the word and you just end the sentence and that kind of thing. But I haven't heard anybody hear it, but it's really a struggle for me. So, um, the left side of the brain also can affect logical reasoning and analytical thinking. It seems like I did not have that affected at all. When I went to my neuropsychiatric exam to find out what my cognitive deficits were. I was flattered by how they said that I was actually a high functioning, whatever, I don't know what they said, a high functioning something, meaning that my language was clearly a deficit because it was not comparable to my analytical and my math skills. So I scored really high in the math, which I should because I was a math major. But whenever my husband asks me a math question, I feel totally stupid. I don't know what it is, but when he's talking to me and I want to sound really smart, nothing smart comes out. But he loves me anyway. I'm sure he thinks I'm smart. I know he does. Anyway, when a stroke affects the left side of the brain, it can lead to aphasia, where speech and language are disrupted. When I first had my stroke, when I was having my stroke, I could not say words that I was thinking. The one word that they were constantly to monitor my progress after they gave me the clot buster, they had me keep saying the word Weimaraner because that's what kind of dog I have. And they were just trying to get me to talk. And they found that they asked me what kind of dog it was, and I couldn't say Weimaraner. So that was the ticket to have me say Weimaraner for the next hour while I was in ER. And finally, by the end of the hour, I could say Weimaraner. It was fascinating. So here's what's interesting that I was really looking up this morning was because the right hemisphere is more involved in related tasks to creativity and spatial awareness and holistic thinking, some stroke survivors may experience a shift in dominance to the right hemisphere, potentially enhancing their creativity abilities. See? So maybe that's what's happening with me. Wouldn't that be fascinating if all of a sudden I become an artiste? I was I was joking about it like the first couple years or the first year, because I was trying to find uh, humor wherever I could in the situation. And I was telling my kids and my husband, I was like, maybe I'll like pick up a violin and all of a sudden I'm like this world renowned violinist, or I'll pick up a paintbrush and I'm like this amazing artist. And that hasn't happened. I mean, I never did pick up, well, I did pick up the violin, but it hadn't been picked up in years that it's all like the strings are all broken and it looks like a piece of crap. So I don't know if I need to get rid of that violin. If any of you are experts in the area of violins, and I know one person who listens whose daughter is, maybe I could have the you look at my violin and tell me if it is like a piece of scrap wood or if it's worth saving. That would be nice. So I never did end up being obviously gifted in any of the creative areas, but I have been quite fascinated with my skills and my joy in being creative. I've never been like this before. It's really fascinating, honestly, to be on the inside watching it happen. So this idea of survivors experiencing a shift in dominance to the right hemisphere, enhancing their creativity abilities, is based on a concept called paradoxical functional facilitation. And that suggests that when certain areas of the brain are damaged, other areas may compensate and even enhance certain abilities, including creativity. So, what I did know prior to me looking this up today, I did know that when you have a part of your brain that has died, that your brain cells like around it, I don't know, that's not very technical or medical terms, but will start picking up the functions that the dead cells did. And I think that alone is interesting. It's almost like when there are people that can write with their feet. I mean, that's far unusual, but that's what it reminds me of, is that if somebody doesn't have any arms or hands, that they have the ability to learn how to write with their feet. It is probably a bad example, but to me, it makes sense that when a part of us doesn't work anymore, we are just extremely complex and amazing beings that we can have another piece of us take over that job. And so I haven't necessarily had a full recovery in my mild aphasia, but it seems like I have grown in a lot of areas. I have noticed that one of the reasons, because I was thinking about this all day, one of the reasons why I enjoy doing all of these crafts and stuff like painting, and all the crafts that you've heard me talk about, is because I get to relax my brain. So when I have think, when I have to think, I don't even know how this is going to come out. It's exhausting. So if I need to, I'm trying to think of a time, like if I'm writing my book, okay? If I'm writing my book, it's coming from what's on the paper is coming from what's in my head. I mean, that's obvious, but I have a point here. As opposed to if I'm reading something and the transfer of information is going from paper to my brain. When I'm writing the book, the information is passing from my brain to paper. Either way, either way that information is being transferred to and from my brain is exhausting. And I have found that when I get to sit down and do some sort of craft, I can relax and I don't get so tired. Um, and I fear even that I'm avoiding thinking. I'm avoiding reading. I'm avoiding writing my book. I told you yesterday that the one thing I keep procrastinating on is writing my book, and I want to do it so bad, but it is exhausting for me to focus. Really, 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 really exhausting. It's so hard to explain. It's, I mean, I think it's called neurofatigue, but it's a fatigue that is different than just like, oh, I'm so tired of working today. It's not like that. It is like doing push-ups with a finger. That's what it feels like to sit down and try to write a book. Sorry, I just paused because I thought that was thunder, but it was a motorcycle outside. So sorry, because I was like, wow, I think the house is about to come down. But no, that was a motorcycle. Um, Sorry to deter from the topic. So when yeah, I think I totally lost my train of thought because of that freaking motorcycle. Sorry, let's move on. Okay, so there's research and anecdotal evidence showing that some individuals do experience an increase in creativity after a left hemisphere stroke. And it can manifest in ways of like artistic expression, way more creativity and problem solving. That's the upcycling thing that I am like obsessed with. I love it. And then interest in new things like painting, music, writing. My new thing that I'm interested, I mean, I can't tell you a hobby that I don't like, actually. I'm trying to think of one that I've tried that I didn't like. Maybe it'll come to me, but off of the top of my head, I can't think of one that I've tried yet that I don't like. And there's been a lot of them. I've had a long year. um, so for me and for many who experience this, the shift can feel like you have found new purpose, a new lease on life, a way to express yourself and find meaning in your day. And I am almost to the point of getting choked up because today I woke up and I thought of all of the creative things that I wanted to do today. So I have a pill bottle that I'm painting a beautiful beach sunset on, and it has pinks and purples and yellow and dark blues, and it's beautiful. And I wanted to work on that. And then I have my crocheted thing that I sprayed fabric hardener on because I shaped it. And that is almost done. And then I finished my white rock bowl that is drying right now. I mean, I went outside and pulled weeds in my garden. Like today was a really good day because I felt good. And those are days that I have to be very aware of if I'm pushing myself too far. And I don't think I did today. There are times today that I got a little ahead of myself. But I recognized it, I think, and I stopped immediately when my symptoms got too high. So I think that this progress is because I'm learning how to stop myself, to have some self-control. And because of that, I have the ability to use all of these different avenues for expressing myself. And I find so much meaning in all of these experiences. I want to do the Etsy shop, and then this crocheted thing is going to be a gift that I'm going to give this month. And it's just been so enjoyable. And I think that I'm really going to enjoy Christmas coming up. So everybody's going to get handmade stuff, but I don't want it to be something that somebody's going to be like, oh, yeah, thanks for the Coke can that's painted blue. I want it to be something that's really has purpose. That's the whole point of what I'm doing is letting my creativity and my art that I'm working on really mimic my life's shift and renewal and search for new purpose. I'm trying to pull it all together into this recovery daily. That's what it is. Um, the fact that I woke up this morning and I was just excited. I was excited to work on these things that are giving me joy. And that means that I'm doing the right things. I'm doing the right things. I don't remember ever well, it's not true. I was going to say, I don't remember ever waking up for work and being like, I can't wait to go to work. But I did. I'm kind of a nerd and overachiever, and I did actually. So, anyway, I think it's important to note that this increase in creativity is not a guaranteed outcome for everyone who experiences a stroke. I feel that I am very fortunate that I have been left with the abilities to do these things because I could have very well lost more. Um, I can still see. And earlier this year, it would have been very challenging for me to do any of these crafts in one day. Um, I would have had to pick one craft and work on it for a month because I just plain old couldn't look at something for more than 5 minutes without having severe pains in my head and dizziness and all that stuff. So I need to make sure that I prioritize my recovery above all of these fun projects that I'm working on, because without focusing on my recovery, I don't have this. It's very similar to not drinking. I need to not get comfortable in recovery. So, as an alcoholic, I can't get comfortable and start thinking, you know what? I've been sober for 8 years. I'm kind of tired going to all these meetings. I don't need to do that. Maybe I'll just go like 3 days a week. No way. That is not going to fly. If I don't prioritize my sobriety above absolutely everything in my life, everything, then I don't have a life. I don't have anything if I don't stay sober. So, it's the same thing, you know. All of our strokes, our alcoholic experiences, all of these things are highly individual, and depending on oh gosh, everything, our lives for alcoholism, and then the location in the brain of the stroke, all of this impacts where we start moving forward and how we start moving forward and what kind of therapy we need. As an alcoholic, I needed to go to 2 years of addiction therapy. And as a stroke survivor, I am still going to doctors. So, but the more that I work on all of this stuff and prioritize it out of the gate, the more benefits I have had over the past 8 years. And I'm hoping that the same applies to my stroke recovery as it has for my alcoholism. So, while some stroke survivors experience a boost in creativity, and I was thinking about, there's if you've heard of Stroke Onward, it's a company, an organization that I follow on social media. A woman, a professor, she had a stroke, and I was curious if she has, because she has aphasia, uh, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Strong aphasia. I don't know what the word is, but I wonder, so I think her stroke was on the left side of her brain if she has aphasia. So I'm wondering about her creativity. But I think she had multiple strokes. So, anyway, I'm curious to know um, if you listen to this, you are listening to this. Um, if you are a stroke survivor, I'm curious to know if you had a stroke on the left side of your brain, if you feel yourself being more creative than you used to be. And vice versa, if you had it on the right side of the brain, do you feel yourself being smarter? I'm kidding. More intellectual, more analytical, that kind of stuff. That'd be interesting to know. So reach out to me on social media, or you can send me an email if you are so inclined. I'd be interested to know what your experience is. So while some experience a boost in creativity from a left brain stroke, this outcome varies widely among individuals, and the relationship between brain damage and all of our activities and functionality is extremely complex. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the past 3 years, is that it is not fully understood. You know, it remains an interesting area of study in neuroscience. They have only scratched the surface of how our brains work. I mean, I couldn't be more certain of that in watching these specialists look at an MRI. That's the one thing that really kind of, I don't know, raises not a red flag, yellow flag for me. that I'm like, you know, they don't have this three-dimensional view of our brain. It's just like an X-ray, you know? They just see it in slices. And if they see a little white dot or they see a little black dot, they can guess what it is. But I, right in front of me, saw several of them get it wrong. You know, look at something and be like, that might be where the stroke was. And then a few minutes later, nope, nope, that's not it. That's a gap. I mean, that's so strange to me that but I know it's complex and it will get better with time. I guess I'm so surprised that we are at this point where I can just ask Chatty for an answer to whatever question I'm thinking, and Chatty will go on the internet and find an answer that's on the internet. It may be wrong, but find an answer for me. It can create images of like podcast episode thumbnails for me if I just tell it what to do and stuff. And we can actually create 3D models of things. Like we have machines and everything to do that, but yet they're still looking at these MRIs. I think it's got a long way to go for sure. But we do what we can. And I think I've been a little overly excited today about my creativity and that I've got it, you know, and I'm just happy about it. And I wanted to talk about it. So thanks for letting me do that. um, I think the takeaway from this really is when life doesn't go as planned, I just said this to my son yesterday. When life doesn't go as planned, quite often things turn out better than they ever would have if you planned it. You know, we discover new strengths and new abilities that we never knew we had. We open the door to opportunities that we never would have considered if things didn't change in our lives without our control. Yeah. So thanks for listening today to the Recovery Daily podcast. And I don't know, reach out to me. Somebody say hi. Send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Tell me something about yourself, why you listen to the podcast. And I am fully aware that I have not picked a book for September or October yet. And I am fully aware that I did not pick a listener challenge yet this month. So should I promise? I hate making promises that I don't keep. Okay, I'll do it. I promise you tomorrow you will have the book of the month and a listener challenge. So there it is. There's your reason to come back. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.